Hi everyone, I am Vimeto, your host for today. Welcome back to the Investment and Development Talk series in collaboration with IDAN, Government of Nagaland, NetFee and Entrepreneur School of Business. A very warm welcome to all of you tuning in today's special talk show on unlocking investment in Nagaland, readiness, policies, and government schemes for local enterprise. As Nagaland positions itself for growth, investment, readiness, and support systems, which are very important more than ever. Today, we'll dive into the key policies, infrastructure developments, and government schemes that aim to empower local businesses, encourage innovation, and attract investment. We have with us our esteemed panelists of speakers from government bodies, policy circles, and the entrepreneurial ecosystem who will help us understand what is being done and what more can be done to create a thriving environment for local enterprise in the state. So sit back, take notes, and ready to gain some valuable insights. So we're going to start with one of our first panelists, and she is from IDAN, and we would like to introduce a brief lead to you. And she is Srimati Aokumla Kiwi. She is a consultant for the investment vertical. So I'm going to give time for her to introduce herself in her own words, how she would like to be known to us. So may I welcome Aokumla, ma'am.
Hello everyone, my name is Aokumla and I'm currently working as a consultant in the investment cell of Investment and Development Authority of Nagaland.
So I want to start with asking you, just to begin with, how and where do you see IDAN, work in the state visible?
Okay, so I'll just start from the beginning where this IDAN was envisioned by our Honorable Chief Minister as to make Nagaland as an investor-friendly state. So that's where Investment and Development Authority of Nagaland was created. And being an investment promotion agency in the state, our aim is to promote, explore, and facilitate all possible investment opportunities that has to do with infrastructure and socio-economic development. So IDAN strives as a driving force to multiply the strengths of the government departments and also all kinds of stakeholders here in Nagaland that have potential to bring investments or to, partner to bring investments in the state.
So according to you, if I may continue with you, in fact, we just begun. Can you tell us something, what are the policies that has in ground taken place so far by IDAN with various stakeholders that we are in partnership with IDAN?
So one initiative, I would say, a scheme would be the Chief Minister's Microfinance Initiative, which has been helping a lot of entrepreneurs. In fact, new business owners or, entrepreneurs who are starting from the grassroots. So this scheme has helped them access to finance, where IDAN has a designated team where they handhold the entire process from the start, where they take care of all the documentations necessary to landing the projects or the schemes for a specific entrepreneur.
And what are the strategies that IDAN is taking in at the moment to have these various stakeholders take part in the scheme that they have designed?
Okay, so I think if I get the question right, there are a lot of challenges, of course, but then if we look at what IDAN's sole purpose is, it's entrepreneurship development as well. So when we're talking about accessing all those opportunities, we also make sure that we align the market demand. Like, their investors come with certain interests. So according to that, even Nagaland has certain strengths. So we align those accordingly, the partnerships that we have. So IDAN's mandate is to engage investment promotion actively. So what IDAN is doing is that we're making sure that the entrepreneurs have access to whatever schemes or opportunities that is available.
So it would be very interesting to know how you're approaching the right, stakeholders, or let's say the beneficiaries, to be more precise, to avail these schemes. Because today, not just you, but along with you are two panelists who are entirely from a two different background, and they very much fall into being a beneficiary to what IDAN is visioning and being part of that mission. So what are the approaches that you use, for example, to attract? So I'm going to go back, come back to you by introducing both of them so that we can correlate how they can avail what IDAN is offering to the beneficiaries that is in the state, and also perhaps from their stories we can also find out if it is practical and the areas where there are gaps, and we can fill it together. So may I start with a very well-known, which everybody knows the background that you come from, the organization that you have worked. Ladies and gentlemen, she is Wekowe-u, Tsuhah. We call her Akole. And she's a community organizer, a women's rights advocate, and facilitator of women-led enterprise, Northeast Network. But I'm going to leave it to her how she wants to be introduced, because that's something in a very precise manner I have. So let's hear it from you. And welcome.
Thank you, Gugu. Hello, everyone. My name is Wekowe-u Tsuhah, in short, Akole, and I have worked with Northeast Network, a women's rights organization in Nagaland for the past 2 decades. And I am today would call myself as a community organizer, facilitator, and I have supported, community-based organizations, especially women-led organizations, to set up some enterprises.
Now we're talking about 20 years of experience. So how about you tell us a little bit about how your journey has been, and help us also understand being a community developer, facilitator. We're talking about women's rights, livelihood. If you could help us, how has that, what has inspired you to start this journey? Because 20 years, it's not a joke, but definitely it has shaped you differently. So please tell us.
Thank you. I started my journey watching actually women of my community, how they used to come together and to address problems, and also collectively look at how do we build our community. And I was fortunate to have role models in my life when I was a teenager, seeing some of the community women in my village setting up like a community health initiative called the Chizami Women Health Center, and how I really got inspired to do something similar. And because I also firmly stand for and believe in equity, justice, and peace, I really saw that this is a space for me, to really connect my values to what the organization is doing. And I joined Northeast Network as a very young person, and when I got that is when I got the opportunity to have conversations with the women on the ground, listen to their stories, everyday struggles, their aspirations, and how we can do something to really make our voices heard and make our work visible. And that was when my journey began, I would say. And I've learned so much from the ground, and the biggest lesson I've learned is that when women actually come together on a common cause, for a common concern, that is when they support each other and real change can start from there. And that has been my journey. And of course, I work at the intersection of gender, environment, and also sustainable livelihoods. And I see these 3 things very closely integrated, because one thing is if we look into the context of Nagaland, then we see that especially looking at, say, natural resource management, women in our community has been stewarding the land. They have been really playing a very significant role, in terms of really safeguarding, sustaining our food systems, our agriculture, our craft traditions, especially with the textile weaving. And yet, you know, when it comes to making decisions around how this kind of resources or collective, you know, assets are managed or decisions are made, then women are kind of excluded. So it is very important, like, for us not to ignore this kind of voices, the ecological knowledge of women, the role and the contribution of women to our culture, to our, you know, food systems. So that is where I see that, you know, really needing to work with a section of, you know, community, that is the women. Of course, women are also very diverse that way, but one of the marginalized, you know, like gender in our context. So that is where, and also, like, when in my experience of working with this woman, because when we're talking of like our natural resources, our environment, it is very much like sustaining our local livelihoods in Nagaland's context. So if we don't safeguard, you know, our resources, our environment, then even our economic stability, you know, all these things is also threatened. And again, like, I come back to why looking at sustainable, you know, livelihoods, and that is when working with, you know, like building women to come together and build collective enterprises. That has been an approach that I have, like, in my organization worked for. And because when we build, you know, enterprises, like, that is collectively owned, you know, by the women, run by the women, you know, that is something which I found it very empowering. Yeah. So that is my work.
And
Sorry
I think,
for the long.
I think,
Yeah.
and on that note, I think we
Yeah.
should all have our drink now.
Yes.
Please. I think what I really, and I'm sure our co-panelists would also agree to this, empowerment. We talk about empowerment so much, but it's not just about individual empowerment, but collective empowerment. And what you and your team and the rest of the women who have really rallied in the grassroots, and beginning with just listening. I think that's where many problems are solved, just by, you know, agreeing to sit down and listen. Something I think we fail to do many a times, even in our daily lives. So how this enterprise, you know, that has come about, Lechekro, right, if I have pronounced it correctly, and how Chizami Weaves have really taken upon themselves in creating this enterprise of engaging women. And the other important thing, I think I've correctly read this many years ago, the fair wage, right, which Chizami is really the one behind in engaging because of the gender that we're talking about and the patriarchal society that we come from. Nothing against patriarchy, but the very fact where you have stated very importantly that each member in the society community is responsible for sustenance of our culture, our tradition, and not just men alone, but women have a great role to play. So can you just let us know that how has, you know, establishing, especially the Sewa, where you have each of these women who have been trained, equipped, empowered, you know, taken a sense of ownership, you know, sense of belonging, and feeling the responsibility to take on something, because sustainability is just not about one-man army, but really saying this is mine and I must take care of it. Unlike us, where we don't care about government buildings, government properties, and many of the government properties are just lying like that, but a community-driven, you know, aspiration sees, I mean, it's a fine example that what you've done. So your 20 years of experience, the person you were before and after is no more the same, right? And so we want to know, and also the audience, what was that ultimate point where you felt that now we don't have to be the forerunner, they are the forerunners. So where was that bench line you could identify?
See, I've worked with the Northeast Network, the women's rights organization, for a very long time, and we were very clear. We are just enablers, like facilitators, but we cannot be, voicing for the women all the time. It is the women themselves who should be voicing themselves, who should exercise their agency. And that is where we felt that building institutions for the community women themselves, where we are not owning them, but we are facilitating them. And the whole journey began from there. And if we want to look at, secure, achieve like sustainability of this kind of institutions, it is very important for us to really build, ownership to this. And that is why, like, even with Shizami Weaves, like, which is today like a woman-led, it's a social enterprise and registered as a trust, but that's main motive is also fully like, we just have very few men who are actually part of the team. Otherwise, from operations to really managing the whole production to marketing, everything is done by the women.
Wow.
So that is also something we see that we could really, and we strongly believe that like weaving is like textile is something, it's not just a craft for us, but it is like a tool of empowerment. So economic empowerment, that we could really see that. So for like us, in my experience of working with the women, how I've seen that, when women are given the tools, and also the knowledge and the skills to work on this and build something on their own, then you could see real change. And I have seen myself how having to be able to have this financial autonomy, control, that actually kind of paved the way for having a bigger say, greater say, in your family decisions. And it is a big, game changer, I would say, because I could see that the weavers are today like investing in their children's education, making their homes, better, and their lives. They are able to decide on how they want to, lead their lives and, influence their husbands in a patriarchal setting. So that is something which I've seen. And not just the economic empowerment part, but when we are using an approach, to build collectives and not just like individual entrepreneurship, which is also very important, but why collective? It's also, we see this as a kind of like an engine for, like social empowerment, because when women come together, part of a collective, it's not just a business venture, but they're coming together to having that space to connect with each other, to share, with each other, and to build something together. And it is also like a platform for building the leadership of women. It is where women are also building their, business management skills, their marketing, learning about, fair trade ethics, and so a lot more to that. And when they really come together, and very slowly, like as an individual, you may not really be able to impress on the community, but together means you have more like visibility, you are able to garner more respect from the community, including the male, like leaders of the community, and whereby like for us, we are kind of like demonstrating that it's not just like women's empowerment, but when women thrives, it is the entire community that is actually benefiting and moving forward. And
so did you find, if you could share with us, it's more of the success story that we're listening, but there are definitely challenges, as you have also shared, and IDAN also equally has its own share of basket with challenges, because policies are designed for the people, for the right stakeholders and beneficiaries, but when you actually get into the ground, it's a different story. So we're talking about an intervention in a societal structure where it's a male-dominated, and here we're talking about women empowerment by giving them the tools to make decisions, to participate, and also a change maker, and a game changer. And like you said, the whole community shaping together because of the women participating on an equal footage, but in their own respective domain. Now, how or what did you have to do when there were some difficulties of getting into the women to even begin to understand their role? So could you just give us a gist of it, because I'm sure the field was not as prepared. It was literally a lot of grasses and stones and boulders, and you needed to use a lot of tools to remove them. So preparing the field, could you just help us take, because I'm going to come to Anta, and it's correlated, because Nagaland Tourism Association has its own share of experience coming from the grassroots community base and bringing in ecotourism. And textile very much plays in that part. And IDAN definitely is looking at these two entities, which is also part of the beneficiaries of the policy that is being drafted. So perhaps you can share us with that.
So in my experience of like helping women like organize themselves into collectives, what I've learned is that like the very important thing is looking at how do we engage, you know, with the community. Are we going to the field and offering a business plan saying that this is what it will work, or should we just go to the community and first listen to them, you know, starting with conversations, you know, and building trust with them, and trying to find ways together, and whether it is whether it fits into their, you know, aspirations, their needs or not, you know, I think that is something very important. And the organization like Northeast Network, now Chisame Waves or Lichakro, we've always used this approach of we need to it has to be led and should be a community like need. It has to be a felt need. And there has to be like ownership built into it, means how do you co-create this together, you know, and building a vision together. I think that is very important. That is what I've learned. And the second thing is like what I've also like learned is the importance of like building leadership. Because for all this time, like women have never had, they don't have like prior experience of doing businesses or taking on leadership roles in the community in this kind of like institutions or enterprises, collectives. So it is very important that we need to really build their capabilities and skills and give them the confidence. And that is a very long, you know, like journey, because it is such a difficult thing, and especially when you are doing something collective, then you really need to build trust within the team, correct, the shareholders, you know, maybe of the company or people who are workers there. So that has been a very difficult task. And what I've also learned is like you don't just have one leadership like model like there, but it's about shared leadership, it's about distributive, it's about collective leadership. And this is what we have also learned from our own indigenous systems of, you know, not holding on to power by one person, but how do you really look at sharing this power and responsibility. So that's one. And of course, like marketing today, we really, like with enterprises, we have to really know how to do businesses. And that's when the biggest challenge is, you know, how there's a very big gap in terms of how do we understand like compliances, how do we understand running the businesses. Even for us, when we kind of got women together saying that we need to own this business together, let's start something. But we never expected what we were jumping into, you know, so there's very complicated, like need to understand financial management, governance, compliance, you know, and this is something where we really need like the government support, policy, you know, support to help us, you know, do that kind of understanding to really run businesses. And of course, the marketing thing. It's not just selling the product, but correct, selling your story, selling, you know, your cause, your social, you know, thing. So that is where we are struggling a lot, and we're still there. Yeah.
Well, glad you spoke about your struggle, because that's where IDAN comes in, you know. But I'm going to bring back this conversation because we still have a third panelist, and he is Vimeto. And Vimeto Vakha, he's the president of the Nagaland Tourism Association. And I'm going to give time for him to speak about who he is and what kind of work he does. And that's how we're going to begin. So, welcome to our discussion. So please introduce us.
Thank you. Hi everyone. My name is Vimeto Vakha. I'm the president of Nagaland Tourism Association. We call it NTA. As also, I'm also like I have a company named Abode Venture. It's a travel company. So if any one of you need assistance, then you can contact me. Yeah. And yeah, now like I work as a president of Nagaland Tourism Association. So like now, like I have to do the business in two ways. I have to look at my association as well as my business. So now I'm also struggling, but still then by God's grace, I'm doing well. And also like, yeah, I think this is a good opportunity, and it's a good platform for me also to introduce our association to all of you. And I want to thank IDAN for initiated these things, and not forgetting that edu center.
Yes, Edu
Yeah.
Center.
Yeah, thank you.
So, with all the introduction and what you expect, that we would also like to know, Nagaland Tourism Association. So we've just heard from our friend here about how Northeast Network got into the community, got our women involved and where they are, and her 20 years of experience, how it had shaped her individually. Equally, the question also goes back to you when we talk about investment, when we talk about sustainability, when we talk about the business, and that also community-based driven initiative and your Abort venture. How, as an individual and as the president of Nagaland Tourism Association, have been making a difference in the state? Through your perspective, we would like to know.
See, like for tourism, like I think that like tourism in Nagaland, we are the first generation, I think.
Okay.
I think so. Like, and in our parts, like there are so many things we have to do, but still there are so many things that we cannot do. But since the IDAN dive in, we are optimistic that in future we can collaborate with the IDAN as well as tourism department Nagaland. Many a times, like we feel we are alone in this business. But after seeing some scheme come up from our IDAN department, we feel that now we are acknowledged by our government. So we are happy for that. Yeah, and like many a times when we talk about that tourism in Nagaland, see, like when we see the other parts of Northeast, our friends from other Northeast state, they are getting some, like scheme as well as, startup money or whatever. So like when it's come to Nagaland, sometimes, like we are not able to avail those things also. I don't know whether there's a fund for that or not. Of course, like we cannot expect everything from government, but still then, like, we as an entrepreneur, and like sometimes we need the assistance from the government as well.
Correct.
Not just a financial assistance, but like you have mentioned that policy as well. So like, in future that we, in Nagaland also, in policy matters, like the Nagaland should also come up with a, like a good policy where, all the entrepreneurs in tourism, all the stakeholders in tourism can avail those things. And also, like those policies, sometimes, they are not in place. When, we talk about policies, we don't, but still then, those policies just go in vain sometimes. And we don't know what is the policies here. But these are the things, we also, the government, we want the government to put that policy in place so that, to encourage each and every individual who are in tourism sector as well in different business. So that is what I feel, that government should supplement each and every individual, each and every entrepreneur in future. So I'm sure that the IDAN drop in, and I'm also happy that the IDAN is going to bridge the gap in that field.
That's definite, and that's why it was very important for IDAN representative to listen to both of your experiences and the struggle and also the gaps. So to take it furthermore, just a very straightforward question after listening to you. Can you please tell us, has there been any consultation so far? Because to make policies on a particular sector, it requires consultation, inputs, and the working relation with the stakeholders in the ground for the government to actually come up with a concrete. Otherwise, the policy is for whom, right? If there are no takers. So having said that, could you share from your experience as a president and also as an entrepreneur, has there been such intervention so far? And if so, how fruitful has it been? And if not, any suggestion that you would like to give? Because I'm sure the government also would be listening to this because it's a digital platform and with the support of IDAN, which is a great intention to bring it forward for the voices of every stakeholder to be heard.
See, like in that area, like, of course, like last year in 2024, that new policy come out, like from the tourism department. So yeah, as a president, we put some of our input as well. So they also, you know, like there are so many things in that policy, but we as an entrepreneur, we want to get benefits from that policy. So we put some of our thoughts, we put some of our like ideas that how can this policy you know, like supervise us in future. So in policy making also, we have put some of our thought in that. So like they framed a policy in tourism department as well, but I don't know how they are going to implement. That's my big question now.
And that's a very good question. And I guess with a question we start. Well, a mentor told me, if we're in a state of confusion, that's a great beginning.
True.
Because it's through confusion we begin seeking for answers.
Yeah.
And unless we have the heart, and unless we're serious, we're just going to be lazy by putting it up, you know, and say, oh, it's not my business, it's somebody else's. But today's effort and through this platform, I think this is a great beginning, if I may say so, and I hope you do agree on this, because to be part of a platform like this where we come from different, you know, backgrounds and sectors, and how, you know, our friend Tsuhah has shared about government stepping in to support, but after we do our part, unless we do our part, we can't expect the government to come and step in. It's two to tango, right? So now we'll come to IDAN, because we've heard from both sides, from Anta and from a representative here who has worked in the social sector for quite some time in empowering women on livelihood, but also not just on the livelihood sector, but as a capacity builder, you know, on leadership and women's role in contributing in the economic sector of the state. So IDAN, where have you sensed, you know, now where being an entity, you know, as a government representative, the policies, you know, the drafting or the approaches, the strategies, the tools that you have reached out, and listening to both of them, can you help us know how we can bridge these gaps that they have shared?
All right. So I'll just start with what she talked about. So I'll just focus on the handicraft and handloom sector.
Correct.
So recognizing the talent pool and the skill involved in the handloom and handicraft sector, IDAN has also partnered with the Export Promotion Council of India, where we have organized workshops and capacity buildings, where we have invited like people of Nagaland from the field of crafts, handicraft and handloom. And to say, I won't say we're doing much also, but then we have been doing our part in trying to bridge those gaps, because we are a facilitator. So what we do is we connect the beneficiaries and the stakeholders, and so what goes after that, we still facilitate that. Okay. But then we have also created platforms where we have held an export promotion day. There was an event last year called the Bloom Bazaar. So we held one specific day just to promote the handicraft and handloom of Nagaland. And we had invited the council members from the Export Promotion Council as well. And they had also recognized the talents, the skills of the people of Nagaland. And there has been interest. And so all this, we are also coming up with policies to help with the export and handicraft and handloom sector. So talking about the taxi association, we've had the initiative of the Nagaland Tourism Connect scheme, where we started the initiative of supporting tour operators and entrepreneurs by providing them with subsidies to avail cars so that they can use not just a taxi, but where they can let the passengers also experience the luxury. So we had also partnered with Kia for that, and it has been very fruitful. And we are going for the second patch as well. The first and second patch has been done, so we're going for the third one now. And I think when we are talking about policies, we have like a research development cell in IDAN where we're collecting data. I think to proceed with any kind of policy or initiative, if there's no clear data on what's available, I think that will not help with what we can do further. So we have a specific team that's looking into the research development, and then the investment team in IDAN is also coming up with certain policies to help certain entrepreneurs.
So in that line of helping the entrepreneurs and the research work that is happening in the background, we would like to know, has there been any grievances in particular where the respective, stakeholders, or let's say beneficiaries, potential beneficiaries or existing beneficiaries have shared? Because these feedbacks helps the government department to do things differently, or perhaps the course correction. So is there anything that we can learn from that, and you could help us also understand? Because not everything is rosy, because if I ask the same thing with Wekowe-u or even, Vimeto, of the organizations that they work with, there are a lot of challenges. In fact, I think more challenges are there than the success stories that we can talk about. But like Vimeto has shared, perhaps the first generation to get into such a field, the first generation perhaps, to really think about empowering women and taking 2 decades, to see a result of hope, and women taking forward and not being dependent, but being codependent of needing each other, to build a community-led organization where women are taking on. So as IDAN, can you share with us what are the challenges so that even the masses also understand that government is not all glossy and not without a problem? Because there's a huge gap of misunderstanding, and we all know here in this room that we look at government many a times as our enemy. But I think it's important to acknowledge where they have equally contributed and supported in areas where it's been right. And also it is our role as a citizen, as an potential beneficiaries, to also lead the government, and especially with IDAN, since it's IDAN, with ideas that is workable and doable as a collaborative partner, right? So would you want to say something before she...
Can I supplement
sure.
to her? See, like this scheme, it's a really good scheme. I should say that.
The taxi?
Yes, that Tourism Connect scheme.
Yes.
It's a very good scheme, and this is we, the NTA, we are longing for this for the past, I should say that 20 or more than 20 years ago. Oh. So like we have seen our neighboring state that they are getting subsidized car in different schemes they have made by their own government in different states. So like we, the NTA, we also, why don't we try these things in our department, like in tourism department? So with a collective effort, with some of the executive from NTA, we go around to department. And at last we meet a right person, I should say that. We met Sir Abu Meta, and Sir Abu Meta had committed that he is going to place this thing before the Hornbill 25th edition. So we were so happy. And after that, yeah, not just him, but with that from the department, those who work for this scheme, we want to say thank you from NTA side as well. We really want to thank them because, you know, like this is must and we need these things. And also like I want to say something on this as a beneficiary. Like when we get this car, like we were subsidized with some of them are 25%, some of them are 50%. Yeah, but you know, like when it's come into when we see the tourism sector in Nagaland, it's a seasonal based tourism.
Correct.
So the thing is like, of course, like in season, it's not easy for us to pay back that EMI. But you know, in off season, like we take as 6 months as a season and 6 months as an off season. So like in 6 month time, like when there is a season, it's easy for each and every beneficiary to repay. But like for the off season, I should say that we are getting trouble here. How we are going to earn money from? And also, the government is giving so much car that, you know, like everyone is, you know, like using now as a taxi. Like I think the department has given more than 80 cars total. So like I think here the government also should see that carrying capacity. That's very important. Because as a stakeholders, as a, you know, like a beneficiary, if we cannot pay back our EMI, what shall we do here? So like I just want to, here's my request that the government also should come up with something where like in off season, each and every beneficiary should pay back in the right way, like in the right time, so that there will not be a defaulter. And we that NTA, like we always help one another, that there should be a defaulter in this scheme. Because like, you know, for the past so many years, everyone knows that when we avail some schemes and all, then we got the subsidized money, we'll have it and we'll go away. But this scheme is not something like that. We should do something in success, that the government also should have a success story, as well as the entrepreneur also should have a success story, so that the government should have faith in the entrepreneur. And the entrepreneur should also have faith to the government. So like both that party should collaborate and work together so that we can build our state in more advanced, or what should I say? But that's what I feel.
I'm glad that you spoke about this, because you are the one at the receiving end, you
Yes.
know? So the means is this, the end is you, and how these two has to work very closely, that means having a relationship. So rightly said, so that's one of the grievance among the many grievances, and I think this is actually true, because it talks about your credit score. It's not a free money, it's a loan. You still have to pay. And also the season and off season. And rightly said so. Nagaland, the nature of doing business is like that. Taking a fine example of Hornbill Festival. And the last, you know, the 10 days, we're accumulating the whole year round in that 10 days and get as much as money as possible. So there has been various stories of success and non-success. So how are we doing differently every year is another thing, changing of strategies and also meaningfully. So coming back to IDAN, where IDAN plays a very important role in this, both for the textile industry, but also on the women role in the system, and also ANTA, where Nagaland Tourism Association, who have availed this particular scheme of the taxi, which is actually very helpful, and 20 years of hope. Finally, we have seen it. But let's hope that it doesn't take another 20 years for another scheme to come up, you know, for our people to wait. So how do you respond to this challenge? And I'm sure a discussion has been done with this real grievances that has been addressed.
Yeah, so I agree with whatever he has said. Actually, the grievances has been there, and it has come to us as well. So I cannot give the end decision that has been made, but then yes, the department is working on that to make it better. And when it comes to the schemes, it has to do with finances. So of course there is some risk involved in that. So IDAN, we always make sure that whenever a scheme or a policy is about to be implemented, it involves the benefit of all the stakeholders involved. So it can be the beneficiaries, it can be the stakeholder, the banks involved, or even IDAN as a department or any other departments if it's like when we're talking about tourism, taxi, tourism involved. So we look at how each one will benefit from that. So I think in the part of the grievances, where the challenges that's there, we are discussing on that to make it better and feasible for Nagaland.
So can I also say this with this hope that with an ongoing progress report card, because to get it right, this is a very new scheme. It's not tested, it's getting tested now. So new experiences, right? For all parties for that matter, for the scheme to see its success, it takes time. And I think how Vimeto has rightly shared, the grievances, that only helps the department to get it better. So consultations are important. Relationship is very important with every stakeholder beneficiaries to see the success of this particular scheme. And I think our state somehow is getting better, but not there yet. But I guess it will get better when we actually care enough to push it and not just leave it there, because we have this culture of not approaching to the right place and complaining more. So the problem is still there. It's not being resolved. And this scheme is particularly for the beneficiaries. That means for us, for you and me. So if we don't go to the right party, that is IDAN, who's giving the scheme, don't have conversations, and in case IDAN fails to respond, then itself it's a broken promise. Then we go back to 50 years back of not having trust, which you said, and building from the scratch again. So can you afford that? Is another question. So we really hope that the audience is able to understand this conversation just in a gist. In 1 hour, we do not know how much we can talk about it, but this is just an effort to help us understand where each sector is facing its challenge, but also the little success stories that has taken decades of hard work and sincerity in building it, and how today we have seen empowerment is not just a saying, but it talks about grassroots relationship, dedication, commitment, and also being part of the system. So IDAN is making an effort, and I must say this talk series is one of them, to be heard, the voices. And I think it's the beneficiaries who are the ambassadors of the respective schemes that they receive to speak for the department's effort and initiative. And coming back to, how Tsuhah, Ms. Tsuhah has been working, but now as an individual, who have come out after 20 years of experience. It also talks about as a champion of women empowerment, but not to contest or debate, but the effort of, I think, every individual requiring to take part in the grassroots, without which it's not possible, because it requires commitment, right? Not just like, oh, today I'm going to wake up and make a change, and it's going to happen overnight. It's not ever going to happen. I think most of our young people, we as the seniors, who have walked that hard path, have to really guide our youngsters to go back to the grassroots. Then only we can see better Nagaland. It is not just the government alone, not just IDAN or any other department of the government of Nagaland. But I think I would like to come towards the end, because it would be good to know what kind of Nagaland that do you wish to see in the efforts that you're already putting, but encourage our audience as a soul, now as a facilitator with experience and taste of the real world.
Going forward from here, I really like from today's conversation, we could really see the different, roles that each of these institutions or organizations or stakeholder can play. And I feel we need to really work on this further and strengthen this, because when we work in isolation, then we cannot really bring about, long-lasting change. But when we really work together in partnership with each other, we bring in our strengths, to support.
Correct.
And then I think valuing that, recognizing that, and working together, I think that's one of the very important, way forward. And the second, I would say, is also how do we continue engaging, especially young people of our state, because we have a very big, talent pool, huge human, capital. But how do we see that? Okay, we for better opportunities, migrating is one, but it's also a very big concern. So how do we create opportunities within our state and we retain some of this talent pool within the state, and for young people also to drive this? So that is also my vision of seeing getting young people's voices and participation in the entrepreneurial, ecosystem. That is something we wish to see, and I personally wish to see. And when we are talking of young people, it's not just youth, means not just men, but all genders. I think that is something very important for us to look at. And yeah, I think those are the two things we need to work together. I think that's all.
So we've heard from the social enterprise, but from a very holistic point of view, she is included. It's a community base that we're looking at. How do you relate yourself as a government, representative who works with government policymakers, but also with beneficiaries as such? Because the policy, it's meaningless without the beneficiaries, right? So how do you plan to reach out, like she rightly said, engaging young people, because their mindset is entirely different ballgame right now. The our generation and the right now generation, there's a huge gap with technology playing a very important part, with AI coming in, and I am definitely a handicap, when it comes to AI. So how is IDAN coping up with this rapid changes that is happening around us? And rightly said, so certain approaches that you plan to adopt or you're already adopting to engage young people to make a difference and include in the system itself.
As a mandate of IDAN, as mentioned earlier, we're actively engaged in investment promotion. So what we're focusing on is entrepreneurship development. So through my experience from attending roadshows and B2G sessions within and outside the state, I have seen that investors have interest in few key sectors. So first one is skill development. So in skill development, especially in the areas of hospitality, management, and caregiving, especially interest is from the international partners.
Oh.
So we're looking into that also. And then, as she mentioned, the migration, we're focusing on the migration process now. But then what we're also doing is that here in the state itself, we're setting up skill training programs where we train entrepreneurs or youths in export promotion workshops, or it can be in foreign language, or even grassroots level development of being an entrepreneur. I think it all starts from the grassroots. I think many undermine the strengths in the entrepreneurship journey. So we are trying to create the pathways where youths can actually grab the opportunities, where we look at the sustainability as in business sustainability, so that the youths from Nagaland can create business, but also they can create jobs as well, can become job makers. So our focus is to support the entrepreneurship development in the state, and also make Nagaland a job creating state by helping and supporting the entrepreneurs.
So one last question, though that was more towards the conclusion of what IDAN proceeds, how much has IDAN, sensed, that there has been some kind of success in many of the initiatives that they have taken in a very short time, because there has been a huge investment also in those initiatives, you know, rather than a return in terms of financially, but a lot of investment financially in like the Bloom Bazaar. You know, there were a lot of debates over like, I think it was a many months long. Yeah, that's one. Number two, I really hope, you know, and this is also a very common hearing that we've been hearing, that we get to hear more of the beneficiaries' voices speaking on the initiatives that the department has done for them. Because government cannot speak for themselves. It has to be the beneficiaries who have received this, because today we're talking about government schemes, and many a times the public don't even know what government schemes are available in different departments. You know, that kind of awareness is not out there. And today's platform is to talk about that, you know, that are government schemes visible to the beneficiaries? And how much accessibility and preparedness? Because strategies will only come if we actually do a deep study and a survey with the ground realities. Because schemes are for the beneficiaries, but are beneficiaries aware about it? And if they're aware about it, how do you actually get the right potential beneficiaries to avail it, and how has been the journey? I think that kind of thing is a huge gap till now. We don't know. We know that trainings are happening, so we're talking about skill development. So a lot of trainings, but where is the outcome? You know, we don't have such stories coming out. We need to hear those success stories. So success stories also doesn't mean, if I may say, that, oh, somebody who has, you know, earned a lot. It's not about that. But how has been the journey, so that another potential beneficiary could be prepared from that person's story? So could there be, this is just a suggestion that I personally feel, that IDAN has the potential to do that, and we are hungry to hear those stories, to inspire us to come to you and say that we want to be part of you. But to do that, it has to be IDAN reaching out to you to hear our stories, correct? And we sincerely also feel in that same line of the preparedness, where Anta definitely has already shared how the scheme has helped, and it was something that they have dreamt for a very long time, and today it's happening. So we really want to thank you for having the courage, because honestly, we would want to have the key stakeholder who makes decisions, you know. But as a representative, you have done it so well to help us also understand, because that really shows the confidence that we can have in IDAN to take it forward, and how both of our panelists have also shared their challenges and their grievances, but also the success stories of their own hard work. And that's where the collaboration and partnership comes in. So thank you very much on that. Yeah, thank you so much. So we're going to hear it from Anta. What is your last, you know, conclusion, but just the beginning of the conclusion on the holistic approach of your hope and expectation?
I want to thank like IDAN department. Yes, of course, from my heart, because not just this luxury car scheme, but also they are come up with some homestay. I think they have gave some grant to some of the homestay owner as well. So if that is possible, I'm sure that I can expect some new scheme like homestay in future, where that grassroots level also can avail, not just that person who are involving in tourism, but the person as a like in a village level. Because like to do tourism in this Nagaland, like I feel that we should come up with a proper circuit where all the villagers like get a proper homestay. So I want, if I'm not wrong, the department that IDAN is coming out with a homestay scheme as well. So okay, that's a good thing, and we are also expecting a lot from the department in homestay scheme as well. So yeah, we, the NT also, we are so happy for that, and definitely it will not just grow our entrepreneur like me, but each and every individual in the village level as well in future. Yeah, that is what I feel.
So taking on, you know I've said about the conclusion part, but I also realize from what you have shared that what IDAN was doing in the past with the initiatives on CSR programs and other schemes. And we also learned that you were part of the, the beneficiary. So like I was saying to IDAN, that we would love to hear the voices of the beneficiaries. And now that you're here, we would love to hear from you. How has been your experience? Because as an enterprise, setting it up, that's something, the NEN has taken it. But the intervention of the government, how has it been a different one? So would you please share that with us?
So I don't remember exactly which year now, but since the IDAN was established, they have been organizing consultations and capacity building programs. And I remember two of my past colleagues have also attended this workshop, which is on CSR, funding. How do you pitch? What kind of capacity is required? What kind of documentation is required? So it was very useful for us, because the kind of funding that we have been receiving has always been like mostly other non-profits and foundations, But when it comes to a CSR, we have never availed for one, and we don't really know what goes into that. So having that opportunity, to get an exposure on how accounting should be done, what kind of compliances is required, documentation is required, and how do you pitch proposal for CSR. I think that also expanded our basket of funding opportunities.
Wonderful.
So that was very useful, I must say. And IDAN has also organized investors meet, and that is when buyers and sellers kind of meet, and we have got opportunity as Northeast Network, led initiative like Chizami Weaves and all, Lichekro, to come showcase our work and also to meet with investors and other funders. So such kind of opportunities are very important, and I hope that IDAN will continue to facilitate such kind of networking opportunities, with different stakeholders, I think, and the kind of capacity building, which is based on the requirement of maybe enterprises and businesses. I think that will really help. And maybe if already research is done, that's good. If not, then I would also, maybe it will be a good, maybe a step towards really documenting the experiences of different models, of businesses and enterprises. Because even with me, my experience, I know how a producer company under Companies Act is very different from a trust or a Section 8 company. So really these are things which there's a lot more understanding required, capacity building required. So that's one. And for the women enterprises that maybe I've also been part of facilitating those, the biggest challenges for us has been number one is actually the working capital, How do we access that? So that has been something still very big challenge. The second part is, of course, the capacity part of how do you manage businesses, so how do you really pitch proposals, how do you do marketing? So the capacity building, the skill gap, that side is huge area. And then, of course, the working capital is one. Besides, of course, the other larger infrastructure and connectivity and all those issues. So yeah, a lot to also kind of step up and then understand, marketing, digital marketing and a lot more things. So that is where we'll be needing the support of IDAN to come in as a kind of a bridge, Yeah. Thank you.
Rightly said. I mean, you mentioned about IDAN doing the capacity building, the skill development training. Now we have somebody who's already experienced in that. You have the skills, you have the resources in terms of the human power, but we don't have the infrastructure. Then it comes to working capital. Who's going to be the one to give that, the startup money? Do we have to do it on our own? I think these are very real challenges, and we don't get to know a very friendly environment to also where to find it, how to do it. And it's a long process again. And many of us, we don't have patience also. And capacity building is not an overnight journey. It requires us to be really committed if we really mean what we want to do. Just not an idea, but to really plan or to see the seed growing. It's a journey in itself together. So I think hearing from both Nagaland Tourism Association with the hopes and also the fears, but also the unknown journey ahead. And also with, your journey with Northeast Network, your 20 years of experience as a community developer and facilitator, as an advocate. I think this has really brought us into a particular centering of ourselves where everyone is equally responsible for the success of any scheme, whether it's an NGO scheme, opportunity, or a government, scheme, or the beneficiaries. Everyone has a role to play. How you rightly said, Tsuhah, about that. And I think today's attempt through this platform in support, from NetFee and IDAN and Edu Center as the facilitator in creating this space, it has really enabled us to have a bird's eye view on the holistic, approaches that all four of us bring into this table. This is just a beginning of a conversation, and well, we really hope that the audience has been able to grasp some of our experiences through this conversation, where it's not a monologue, it's a dialogue, where we get to hear not just the good story side of the journey, but also the challenges and also the opportunities that it brings by experiencing it in the ground. I think it is this with great honor, I, on behalf of all the respective department and Edu Center, as a host, as a moderator, and as an individual, would like to thank you. And very pleased with all the hard work that each one of you are putting out there. Many times we don't see it. Sometimes it's a journey of not being appreciated, not acknowledged, and also disheartening, heartbreak, and sometimes we want to give up. But I think as long as we're coming together like this to be heard, to voice out, I don't think so we'll find answers to all our questions. I hope we all agree on this. But the effort needs to continue to make a better Nagaland. And if not us, who? If not now, when? I think that's something that we all know, and our audience also gets to know that. So thank you also very much for the incredible panelists we have here who have shared such practical insights, and all of you for joining us today. From policy frameworks to grassroots implementations, where today IDAN has shared its journey, and also the beneficiaries who have also shared their good story, sad story, grievances, but also with this bright smile of having hope to pursue it. And the discussion also has helped us to better understanding how each stakeholder's experiences, and with the hope to improve. This also comes down to how Nagaland is standing in terms of investment and development. I think there's a huge gap also sometimes how we understand development and investment from a public point of view and also from the government point of view. So bridging this gap requires this kind of discussion. We hope this conversation has sparked new ideas, and I'm sure of it because it has done for me. Answer to your question, maybe some, and let's leave it for others for the next time, and motivated you, whether you are a young entrepreneur, a potential one, or you're thinking about it because you've heard the journeys of our Anta president, who also has his own personal business. It's called the Abbott venture, and he has welcomed everyone who's listening today to reach out to them for the tourism, because we're talking about rural tourism because it's in our context. We don't have urban tourism as such as of now, but I think rural tourism is what is selling out in Nagaland. We haven't touched that part, how rural tourism also brings its own consequences, and that's another vast topic altogether. So perhaps IDAN, would give us an opportunity somewhere, sometime, to have a specific sector conversation, because every sector has its own unique USP, and we require a very, straightforward attention to that. And we hope to get to hear more such sectors to be highlighted through your platform. And so I think this is where we come together as passionate individuals and collectively we're moving towards a better Nagaland, So let's continue to ask the right questions, support each other like we have done today, where we have kept our respect for one another, but also being able to talk about difficult topics and conversation. I think that's where it's very important right now in Nagaland to be able to have difficult conversation respectfully and also framing our questions to get the right answer with the right people, and working towards building a more inclusive and opportunity-rich state. Until next time, thank you for watching and being part of this series, and keep learning, keep building, and keep believing in the potential of Nagalands. So we're signing off, and thank you very much.